Hello to my beautiful family of light. Yes, that means you. My name is Claudia and I want to welcome you to my channel. I'm happy to have you here today. I tell stories about my life from going from clueless to awareness. And the awareness has to do with coming to the knowing, that inner knowing of your life purpose. And I think that anybody who is on that kind of a path will relate to my life and how the journey that it took me to get there. So I am telling all the way from 3.5 years old when I ran away, and we're up to 42. And by age 42, I had received a bunch of spiritual gifts, and that's what that segment was about. Now, because of that, I've reached a place in my life where it was made known very clearly to me that what I had been doing in the shift that I'd been living created that, and that I had passed some kind of an initiation. And that story you'll find in the grizzly and a shaman, in which gifts were bestowed upon me. So at that point, I know that I've completed my mission, so to speak, that I didn't even know I had. You know, that's the clueless part of all this. You just go about your life and then all of a sudden you have this aha. Well, okay, that's where I am, and I call that the first half. A whole new beginning has been set up for me. And so that's where I'm at this point. I'm age 42. It is 1994, and I'm returning to my home state, which I've been opposed to and resisting for a full 1.5 years. And but it's time. I know it's time, and I know it's going to be okay. So with that underway and all those processes set up, this is where I start the next aspect of my journey. I've met a person who there's an obvious internal spiritual connection between us, somebody I've never met before, and I'm getting ready to leave, and so I'm wondering why that is going on. Additionally, there's only 2 weeks left before I'm supposed to leave, and the home I've been staying in for 4 years, the state, and I head off on this final journey, if you will, down to a little place called Shoshone, Wyoming, in which I'm the special music on Sundays, at least one Sunday a month, sometimes twice. On my way back from there, I do that. I say goodbye, let everybody know I'm leaving. And you know, it's special because these are elderly people. I think the youngest person there was 72 or something like that. Everybody else is, you can just advance that right on up to pretty close to 90. And older people just they appreciate so much. So it's a real wonderful thing for me to have become a part of that family. So leaving was, something I felt I needed to do. On my way back, you have to drive up this canyon, and it's let's see, now it's October, so cold weather has set in. We've had some snow off and on, and what happens is, I'm in between mountains on either side and a river on to the west side of things. Okay, I'm headed from the south, I'm going north, and I have a 130-mile trip to make, and it's Sunday, just after church. I'm driving along, I'm full of all these thoughts about all of the impossible, unknown, unreal things that are happening that are they just lack logic. They lack rationale. I mean, when your head is involved in it, spirituality kind of doesn't fit up there with it. There is no logic. What we know from spirituality, or what I've learned now, is that it's a knowing, it's a nudging from in here. This is the seat of the soul. And so I'm driving along, I'm having all these thoughts about the things that have been happening to me. And I'll just briefly say, I met a grizzly bear who didn't bother me. I went into peace, a peaceful place. And in that realization, knew that I was one with the whole of creation, with all of its entirety, and every being, every animal. It didn't matter what. There was this massive big peace, a massive big knowing. And a shaman, a woman, told me the gifts that I had with my 4 years being, I'm a city girl in the wilderness, that I had received, the gift of courage and wisdom and sight, distance and stealth and patience, and there's a whole list of things there. Okay, and then I have an out-of-body experience, and I'm riding along in this pickup with this brand new friend and listening to their conversation, and all of a sudden I have this awareness, I don't belong there, and I go back to my desk. So these kinds of things are going on. All right, I'm driving along, and just, I'm happy, and everything's pleasant. I'm just curious about all of this, and having gaining something of an understanding that there's something way deep within me that I never even knew was there. I still don't even really know what it is. I'm not connecting it exactly with spirituality, but you can't not. So there's just no way for me to make sense of it. And all of a sudden, out the corner of my peripheral vision, I see movement. And as I look over, it's just in time to see a massive boulder, massive big boulder, bounce on the little, I don't know what it hit. And it flew under my car, flipped it up into the air and over. And I'm just, what can you do? This is a split-second thing that's going on. I am crossing. I'm looking now down at the lane I'm crossing of the traffic that's going south. There's no traffic because it's Sunday. And this is an isolated area. And as I'm looking, there's the river. I'm headed for the river, and I'm upside down. And then I feel everything stop. And I go into this space in which everything is just floating. And I look, the car begins to move, and it moves itself upright. And now it's crossing back over where it came from and setting itself down on pretty much off of the road and onto the side as it can. And there's 4 angels. I'm looking at 4 angels, and they're smiling at me. And I, for me to tell the story, it's like a dream. You don't know what's real, but I know what happened. And there I am now, sitting there, and I like take my hands off the steering wheel. I turn off. Well, the car is. I turn off the car, and I'm thinking, what just happened? And it just takes a minute, and I get out. I look underneath, and I tried to start the car. That's what it was. My car had stopped. I tried to start it, and it wouldn't start. So I got out. I went to the front and looked underneath the car, and I could see a bolt had sheared off, and something was hanging, and I didn't know what that was. And this was back in the early 90s, where we didn't have cell phones. we didn't even have, well, I think there was probably the old clunker cell phones, but I didn't have one of those, and we were in a remote area where there wouldn't have been a signal anyway. And so I just climbed back in. I put the hood up like you do when you're in distress. I just sat there and I thought, well, what do I do now? And so now I'm having a conversation with God. I'm like, thank you so much. I mean, I know I'm safe and out of harm's way, but what do I do? And the other thing is that then you go into, that's the inner part. And then I went into distress, and my mind says, well, you're not safe here. You're sitting here. It's Sunday. There's no traffic on Sundays. It's not a high use thoroughfare except on the weekdays, and Sundays to go to grandma's for Sunday supper. And so, and 130 miles away from home, and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, Bob, my friend, and I'm thinking, well, he doesn't even know me hardly. And then I'm thinking of my old boyfriend. And so I'm thinking about him, and I'm saying, where are you? And, how could this life be so the way it is, in which he left, I left him, but he dove into the alcohol, and I couldn't converse with an alcoholic, and so that was a separation. Bob, I didn't know, and even if I could, so I started sending out sort of mental signals. This is hopefully telepathic. I'm thinking to myself, I'm talking to God. I may as well talk to Bob and see if I can't get his attention. And of course it sounds silly. You're just stranded. That's all, you're stranded. And I sat there for about a half hour, and all of a sudden, in my rear view mirror, up comes this vehicle, and it pulls in behind me. And it's a Jeep, and a man gets out, and he comes over, he taps on the window, and he said, I'm just gonna, he didn't even tap on the window then, excuse me. He walked right to the front of the car, got underneath and looked, went back to his vehicle, got a rope, and came back around, tapped on my thing. He said, I'm going to hook this up, and he said, I'm going to tow you. And so he got under there, hooked it up, came back, and he said, just put your car in neutral, do not hit the brake unless we're coming to a stop, unless you see me, and he said, and then do it easily. And so he just, how he knew to go directly to the front of the car is beyond me. And the boulder is sitting there so everybody can see that. And he tows me up through this canyon. And this was, to me, I kept thinking to myself, this is the Disneyland, the wild ride of Mr. Toad. I'm just sitting there. I'm steering just to be, and no foot on anything, no gas or anything. And he's just going lickety-split up this canyon and around these curves. And it was fun. I said, when I think about it today, I know my guidance knows I'm the adventure model, and I don't get scared easily, and I don't panic too easily, right? As long as everything's okay. He drives straight into the end of, what's the name of that? Oh gosh, I can't think of the name of the town right now. I'd have to look it up, and I should have. He drives there. It's about 30 miles away up the canyon, and from the canyon, in there, right at the would be the southeast end of it, is a big parking lot, and there's a phone booth there. And he stops his vehicle, and he says, do you have AAA? Because he said, I can tow you to the nearest, place, or he said, I'll just leave you here and you can take care of it. And I said, I have AAA, and off he went. And so, he stopped in this big parking lot, came out, unhooked everything, and didn't even say anything. And I thought, well, I looked at the phone booth, and then I looked around to see if he wasn't even there. He had gone. I mean, he had just, poof, he had disappeared. I was in this great big parking lot. I'd only had time to get out, look at what was there, and look for him, and there was no vehicle, no person, nothing. So anyhow, I just like, well, that's strange. But I get over, I call, get on the phone, I have AAA, I get a hold of somebody, and he said, I'm happy to take you over here to the nearest shop, but he said they won't be able to see you till tomorrow. And I said, well, I'm on my last 2 weeks, I said, of work, and I've got projects to finish and packing to do. And I said, I can't stay overnight here. I said, is there any way that you can take me to Cody? And he started to argue, and all of a sudden he just stopped. And what he said to me was, he said, you know what? Cody has some really good restaurants. He said, I'm going to see if my wife would like to go out to dinner with me tonight. And the next thing I know, he's got me in tow, and we're headed up the road, and we're having a great conversation. So I made it back to Cody that night. But now my journey's delayed, right? So I'm going to stop here and pick up from what happens as a result, and that'll be in my next video. So magical experiences, if you're willing, and apparently I'm willing. So thank you so much for joining me. I really, really am happy that you come and have come to join me, and I hope that you, even if you don't get the spiritual stuff, that you had a good laugh, or your eyes are open wider, or that you're curious now, because curiosity will lead you to some profoundly wonderful stuff. So thank you so much for joining me today. The 2 things that you can do are like and subscribe. If you enjoyed this, you have the option of getting announcements or not on new videos are posted. And until I see you again, I want you to know I love you this much. These arms go all the way around you, and you can feel that energetic hug. I want you to be loving to yourself and kind. Be good stewards of each other on this earth that we are inhabiting, and be good stewards of the planet. So until I see you again at the next video, be safe, be happy, be well, and know that you're way more than you think you are. Thank you for joining me.